this deep dive. Well, it's about Altemio Sanchez.
Okay.
It's really unsettling. He was, you know, like a regular family man, married, 2 kids,
Yeah.
active in his community, Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
But secretly, he was a serial killer,
Oh, wow.
terrorizing the city.
Ah.
Yeah, we're looking at his Wikipedia article,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to figure out how he kept this facade up, you know,
Yeah, how he lived this double life.
for so long, and the impact
Right.
on the victims, the ones we know about and the
Yeah.
ones we don't.
Yeah, it's really perplexing, isn't it?
It is.
How someone can just like compartmentalize their
Yeah.
life like that
To that extreme.
to such an extreme degree. You know, I mean, we hear about people, living double lives,
Yeah.
but this is it's just so jarring,
Right.
given the nature of his crimes.
It is. It's unbelievable. So, okay, let's let's just get into this. So, he was
Wow.
born in Puerto Rico, 1958.
Mm-hmm.
And his early life, not stable.
No.
His mother actually tried to terminate the pregnancy, and then
Uh-huh.
after his father was, found out to be
Uh-huh.
unfaithful, they moved to the U.S.
Oh,
when he
wow.
was just 2.
So he was very young.
Really young.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, people debate, childhood
Yeah.
trauma, how much it affects people's development.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And their later behavior.
Exactly.
And I mean, obviously, we can't excuse what he did.
Of course not.
But it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what was the impact of those early years?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Something to think about for sure. But he went on to build what looked like from the outside a
Yeah.
completely normal life. He
Uh,
held steady jobs as a machinist, factory worker,
uh-huh.
got married, had 2 sons,
Okay.
coached their sports teams.
Oh, wow.
He even had time for hobbies like golf and gardening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like just a regular guy.
It's just like picture perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's crazy is it wasn't just an act.
Oh, really?
Family members describe him as quiet and nice.
Ugh.
He was well respected. He was even called Uncle Al
Wow.
by some of his neighbors.
So really like part of the
Oh.
community,
Yeah,
like a trusted figure.
trusted. Exactly. Yeah, it's that's what makes it so disturbing. This contrast, right,
Yeah.
between who he was publicly
Yeah.
and then who he really was.
The monster he was hiding.
Right.
That's really what makes this case so unsettling,
Exactly. And that brings us to the dark side
Yeah.
of this whole thing. His reign of terror was a long time.
Yeah.
1975 to 2006.
That's a long time.
A long time. He raped and murdered at least 3 women.
Mm-hmm.
And they think there are more that we don't even know about.
Right. Probably, yeah. Unsolved cases.
Exactly.
It's unsettling because a lot of the rapes
Yeah.
couldn't even be prosecuted.
Because of the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah. At the time, New York had this statute of limitations. So, after a certain amount of time, they couldn't bring charges.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, thankfully it's changed now,
Yeah.
but it just makes you think about, justice delayed.
Yeah.
Justice denied for all these women that he hurt.
Exactly. Imagine being attacked like that and then told, "Oh, well, too much time has passed."
It's unimaginable.
I know.
The trauma of that
Yeah.
and then to be told,
Yeah.
there's nothing we can do.
Awful.
So going back to the crimes,
Yeah.
he mainly targeted women near bike paths,
Oh, okay.
which is how he got the nickname the Bike Path Rapist.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then later, tragically, the Bike Path Killer.
Oh, yeah.
Often he'd use like ropes and cords and wire,
Wow.
even a garrote
Oh, gosh.
to strangle his victims. And many of the attacks also involved beatings and sexual assault.
Just brutal. So was there any kind of pattern
That's a good question.
to his victims, or was it more just, opportunistic?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, for the most part,
Yeah.
it seemed like he was choosing victims just based on
Ability.
Yeah, and
Okay.
vulnerability. But there is one exception.
Okay.
That kind of raises some questions
Oh, really?
about how much he planned these things out.
Oh, okay.
You talk about Majan Mazur,
Oh, right. The second victim.
the second, yeah.
The second murder victim.
Yeah, she was 32, she was a mother,
Hmm.
and she also worked as a sex worker.
Okay.
And unlike the other victims, who were
Yeah.
seemingly strangers,
Right.
Sanchez actually knew Majan.
Oh, wow.
So it's thought that he killed her because he was afraid
Yeah.
of being recognized.
So that's really calculated.
That is.
That's scary. Okay, so the three victims that we know of,
Right.
their lives were cut short tragically. Linda Yalem, she was 20. She was a university at Buffalo student.
Okay.
She was actually training for the New York City Marathon.
Oh, wow.
And she was murdered in 1990.
Yeah.
And then Majen Mazur, as we just discussed, and then finally in 2006, Joan Diver. She was 45. She was a nurse, mother of 4, and it's what's crazy is she was killed on the exact same day, 16 years later, that Linda Yalem was murdered.
That's eerie.
And what's also disturbing about Joan Deaver is she wasn't sexually assaulted like
the others.
The other victims.
That timing is really strange, isn't it?
No.
It's like was he trying to mark that anniversary?
Makes you wonder.
Like a ritualistic, aspect to his crimes.
Yeah.
And then the fact that she wasn't sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
It makes it even harder to understand his motivations.
Right.
Like, were his patterns changing? Or was there another reason? It's hard to say.
Right.
It's all speculation.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, but it's also impossible not to think about the potential for more victims, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We don't even know about.
It's another layer of tragedy.
Yeah.
Like all these women, whose stories might never be told.
Right.
And it just speaks to how far-reaching his actions were and how much trauma he caused.
Right, the ripple effects.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. But catching him, that proved really difficult.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, early investigations were hampered by the fact that different police departments were handling each case separately.
So they weren't really thinking about
Yeah, they weren't putting it all together.
a connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems like anyway.
Gotcha.
That changed after Joan Diver's murder, though.
Okay.
In 2006. That's when they formed the Bike Path Task Force.
Oh, right.
And they brought together all the different law enforcement agencies.
Okay, so like a more coordinated effort.
Yeah, including the FBI.
Okay.
So a more comprehensive approach.
It's kind of like too little, too late.
It does feel that way, but at least it was a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did they have any breakthroughs?
Not right away.
Okay.
But it was definitely a turning point.
Okay.
Because they had DNA evidence from the crime scenes.
Yeah.
But they couldn't connect it to anyone.
Really?
God, for years.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't until 2007 that they got lucky.
Okay, how did they get him?
It's an interesting story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know how they always say it's the little things, right?
Yeah.
It's the little things.
Okay.
They were able to get his DNA from some silverware.
Really?
That he left at a restaurant.
What?
Discarded silverware.
Wow.
It was a stroke of luck.
Yeah.
But it also just shows you
Yeah.
how important forensic science is.
Yeah.
For solving cases.
Talk about a needle in a haystack.
It really is.
So this silverware, this was the key.
It was.
To unlocking the whole thing.
When they tested the DNA and matched the samples from the crime scenes, that's what led to his arrest.
Okay.
In 2007.
So they finally got him.
They did.
But then this is where it gets even crazier.
Yeah.
Because this whole thing uncovered another truth.
Yeah.
About how the justice system can fail sometimes.
Yeah.
Anthony Capozzi.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that sometimes justice doesn't always work.
Yeah, it can really go astray.
Yeah.
So tell me about Anthony Capozzi.
Oh, his story it's heartbreaking. So Anthony Capozzi, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Okay.
And he was convicted back in 1985 for 2 rapes. That were actually later linked to Sanchez.
Oh, wow.
Through DNA evidence.
So
he served 22 years.
22 years.
In prison for crimes he didn't commit.
Oh my God.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that.
I know. That's unbelievable.
The injustice of it all.
So how did that even happen?
It's a combination of things.
Okay.
Eyewitness misidentification was a big factor.
Oh, right.
Coupled with the fact that forensic technology back then wasn't what it is today.
Right, so DNA wasn't readily available.
No, DNA analysis wasn't really used.
Okay.
But, even throughout his time in prison.
Yeah.
Capozzi, he always said he was innocent.
Wow.
And he was denied parole over and over again.
Even though there wasn't really evidence.
Despite the lack of concrete evidence.
It's awful.
It makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
How many other wrongful convictions happened back then?
Yeah.
When DNA testing wasn't widely available.
Right.
It's a stark reminder.
It is.
That we always have to reevaluate these cases
Yeah.
and use the best
Yeah.
forensic tools we have.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So thankfully for Capozzi,
Yes.
the truth came out.
Did he?
Because of Sanchez's arrest
Yep.
and the DNA testing,
Because of the DNA test.
he was exonerated in 2007.
He was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he actually later received a $4.25 million
Yes.
segment
For all that he went through.
for what he endured. Yeah. I mean, no amount of money can
Right.
really give him that time back.
No amount of money can replace that.
But it's something.
It's a small step
Yeah.
toward, acknowledging the mistake.
Yeah.
The terrible mistake that was made.
The order did his case lead to any
Like,
lasting changes
it did.
in the legal system?
His case actually inspired a new law
Wow.
in New York State. It's called Anthony's Law.
Oh, wow.
It's designed to make it easier for
Ah.
people who've been wrongfully convicted
Right.
to file lawsuits,
Okay.
faster.
That's incredible.
It's a direct result
Yeah.
of his struggle.
Yeah.
And it really shows his perseverance.
That's a great legacy to come out or
It's
something.
amazing.
So horrible.
Yeah.
So Sanchez was serving his life sentence
Right.
and Capozzi was finally
very-
free again. But there's another twist.
Yeah.
In 2023, Sanchez died
Oh,
by
okay.
suicide
Oh,
in
my.
prison.
Okay.
He was 65.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings kind of like a finality
Yeah.
to this whole thing, but it doesn't really erase
It doesn't erase the pain.
the pain
Yeah.
and suffering.
And suffering. that
Right.
it caused.
Yeah, that he inflicted. And there's just so many
So many questions.
unanswered questions.
Unanswered questions.
Like, how did he
Like, how did it
evade capture?
for so long? Were
This
there
warning sign?
warning signs? Were there things people missed?
I mean, these are questions that I think
Yeah.
fascinate investigators and just the public.
And the public alike.
How was he able to be so normal
Yeah.
for decades?
I mean, think about it. He was charismatic.
Yeah.
People liked him.
Yeah.
His neighbors liked him.
Mhm.
So that probably helped him.
Blend in.
Blend in and avoiding suspicion.
Right.
It
Yeah.
really makes you think,
Yeah.
about who we trust.
It does.
And it reminds us that evil
Yeah.
can hide anywhere.
In plain sight.
In plain sight.
It's scary.
It's a chilling thought.
Yeah, it's really scary. But, I mean, is there anything we can take away from this?
Well, we can't live in a constant state of fear.
Right.
But
Yeah.
being aware of inconsistencies
Okay.
in people's words and actions.
Right.
That's important.
Yeah.
If someone is
Yeah.
totally different in public
Yeah.
than they are in private,
Yeah.
that could be a sign that something's up.
Right. Yeah.
It's not about being paranoid.
Right.
It's about trusting your
Okay.
gut,
Okay.
and questioning things
Yeah.
when they seem off.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's hard. Sometimes you see red flags and
Right.
you don't want to believe it.
We don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
We want to see the good in people.
Right.
But
Yeah.
sometimes we have to accept
Yeah.
that there's darkness.
Right.
Even in people we think we know well.
Yeah.
It's all about that balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Between trusting our instincts
Right.
and not letting fear take over.
Right. Yeah, you can't let your guard down.
No.
Even in places that seem
Even in places that seem safe.
safe. Yeah. So it's this case is dark and
Yep.
disturbing, but I think there are lessons to be learned here
But there are. Yeah.
about awareness.
Yeah, I agree. Awareness is key.
Right.
We talked about trusting your instincts,
Right.
noticing inconsistencies,
Yeah.
being vigilant,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also about being informed,
Right.
Yeah. Understanding
Yeah.
criminal behavior,
Yeah.
Supporting efforts to reform
Right.
the justice system,
Yeah.
advocating for victims.
Right.
These are all things we can do
Yeah.
to make the world
Yeah.
a safer, more compassionate place.
Right. So this deep dive isn't just about
It's not just about one crime.
this one crime.
It's about empowering ourselves
right.
to recognize the
Yeah.
warning signs
Yeah.
and to create a world where
Yeah.
these tragedies
Yeah.
are less likely to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as we kind of wrap up this part,
Yeah.
I wanna just say
Yeah.
the case of Altemio Sanchez it's horrific,
It is.
but it's also
But it also shows us
the testament to perseverance.
the importance of perseverance.
In what way?
Think about Anthony Capozzi,
Yeah.
wrongfully convicted,
Yeah.
imprisoned for over 2 decades.
I know.
He never gave up hope.
Amazing.
And in the end,
yeah.
his resilience,
Yeah.
his belief in his own innocence, it led to his exoneration.
It's inspiring.
It's truly inspiring.
Yeah.
It's an example of how
Yeah.
even when things are really dark,
Yeah.
light can win out.
It's a reminder to never stop fighting for justice.
Never stop fighting for justice.
For yourself.
For ourselves and for others.
And for others, yeah.
Yeah, no matter what.
Even when it seems
impossible.
impossible, yeah.
There's always hope.
There's always hope.
So I want you to think about this
Yeah.
as you go about your day.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do
Yeah.
to promote justice and understanding in your community?
That's a good question.
How can you use your voice
Yeah.
to help those who are marginalized
Right.
or silenced?
You're right.
Even small things can make a difference.
That's a good call to action. I hope our listeners are listening.
Yeah.
This has been a heavy one.
It has.
But it's important.
It's important to talk about these things.
Yeah. Altemio Sanchez's story. It forces us.
It forces us to look at some uncomfortable truths about the world.
Right.
But it also
reminds us
about hope.
Yeah, and resilience.
About resilience.
And justice.
And the importance of justice.
No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter how long it takes.
No matter how long it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you.
So this deep dive isn't over yet.
Right.
There are still some questions.
Some lingering questions.
About Sanchez and his crimes.
About his crimes.
That are worth exploring.
Yeah, one thing that I find really interesting
Okay.
is his psychological profile.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Like what made him
what drove him
do these things?
Did you do this?
Yeah, what were the underlying factors? Was there something that happened?
Yeah. Was there a turning point
in his life
that sent him down this path?
It's like
we're putting a puzzle together.
It's like a puzzle.
And we're missing pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
Some pieces are missing.
We have these little glimpses into his life.
Glimpses into his life.
You know, the troubled upbringing, the seemingly normal side.
Yeah, but there's so much we don't know.
Right.
You know, it's those missing pieces that keep people interested.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's like this need to understand why people do these things.
To make sense.
To make sense of it.
It's senseless.
Yeah, it's like we want a logical explanation for something that might not have one.
That might just defy logic.
Right.
Completely.
Yeah, and maybe that's the scariest part.
Maybe that is.
Right.
That sometimes there are no easy answers.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
No clear explanations.
We're just
yeah, we're left
with the complexity of human nature.
The complexity of human nature,
right.
And knowing that darkness can exist
anywhere, even in the most
unexpected
places. Yeah. It's sobering, but I think even with all that, but there's things we can take away from this.
There are takeaways
like awareness.
Awareness, exactly.
Right.
We talked about trusting your instincts, noticing inconsistencies.
Yeah.
You know, being vigilant.
Right.
But it goes beyond that.
Okay.
It's about being informed.
Right.
You know, understanding criminal behavior.
Right.
You know, understanding criminal behavior.
Right.
Supporting efforts to reform the justice system.
Right.
Advocating for victims.
Right.
These are all crucial steps
that we can do.
We can take.
To create
to make a more just,
a more
compassionate society.
The world. Yeah. So this deep dive isn't just about.
It's not just about one crime. It's about us
empowering ourselves.
Yeah.
To recognize the warning signs.
The warning signs. Yeah.
To contribute to make.
To create a world where these tragedies are less likely to occur.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think as we kind of wrap up here, I want to say that the case of Altemio Sanchez is.
It's horrific.
But it's a powerful testament to perseverance.
Perseverance.
Yeah. In what way?
Think about Anthony Capozzi.
Right.
Wrongfully convicted.
Yeah.
Imprisoned for over 2 decades.
I know.
He never gave up hope.
It's amazing.
His resilience, his belief in his own innocence.
Yeah.
It led to his exoneration.
It's inspiring.
It's truly inspiring. It's an example of.
It shows us that even when things are really dark.
When things are really dark.
Yeah.
Light can win out.
Light can win out. It's a reminder to.
It's a reminder to
never stop fighting for justice.
Stop fighting for justice.
For yourself.
For ourselves.
And for others.
And for others.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Even when it seems.
Impossible.
Impossible.
There's always hope.
There's always hope.
So, as you go about your day.
Yeah.
I want you to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do to promote.
Yeah. What can you do?
Justice and understanding.
That's a good question.
In your community.
Yeah.
How can you use your voice.
Right.
To help those
who are
marginalized
or silenced.
Yeah. Even small actions.
Yeah.
Can make a difference.
That's a good call to action.
Yeah.
I hope our listeners are listening.
Yeah.
This has been a heavy one.
It has.
But a necessary one.
It's important.
Altemio Sanchez's story.
It forces us to look at.
Forces us to confront.
Some uncomfortable truths. About the world. About ourselves. Yeah, but it also
reminds us about.
The importance of hope. Resilience. Justice. No matter what. No matter how long it takes. Yeah. Well said. So this deep dive isn't over yet. There's still some questions about Sanchez and his crimes that are worth exploring.
There certainly are. One aspect that continues to fascinate me is the psychological profile of Sanchez.
Okay.
What were the underlying factors that drove him to commit such heinous acts? Was there a particular turning point in his life that triggered this descent into darkness?
It's like, yeah, we're putting this puzzle together.
Yeah. And there's pieces missing.
There are. Yeah, pieces are missing.
We got these glimpses into his life. Like you said, troubled upbringing.
Yeah.
The seemingly normal.
The facade, the outward appearance.
Yeah, but there's so much.
So much we don't know.
That we don't know.
Yeah, and it's those gaps, I think, that keep people so fascinated by this case.
It's like we need to understand.
We want to understand
why people
do these things. Right? Like how can
try to make sense of it.
Make sense of the senseless.
Yeah, it's like we try to find a logical explanation for something that might not have one.
That might just defy all logic.
Right, and maybe that's the scariest part.
Maybe that is the scariest part.
Right.
That sometimes there are no easy answers.
There just aren't any easy answers.
There's no clear explanations.
We're just left with this.
We're just left grappling with the complexity.
Yeah, complexity
of human nature, and that darkness can exist anywhere. In the most unexpected.
Even in the most unexpected places.
Places, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sobering thought, but I think
it is. But even with all that,
but there are things we can take from this.
There's things we can take away from this.
Yeah, there are takeaways.
Like awareness.
Awareness, exactly.
Right. We talked about trusting your instincts, being vigilant, noticing inconsistencies.
Yeah.
But it goes beyond that.
It goes beyond that.
Right.
It's about being informed.
It's about being informed.
You know, understanding criminal behavior.
Yeah. Right.
Supporting efforts to reform the justice system.
Yeah.
Advocating for victims. These are all things we can do.
These are all things we can do.
To make the world
a more just and compassionate.
Yeah. And compassionate.
Yeah, so this deep dive isn't just about one crime. It's about us empowering ourselves.
About empowering ourselves, yeah.
To recognize the warning signs.
To recognize those warning signs.
So create a world where these tragedies are less likely to happen.
Yeah, to make the world a better place. Yeah, and I think
as we wrap up here, I just want to say the case of Altemio Sanchez is...
It's horrific, but it shows us the importance of perseverance.
And shows us the power of perseverance.
Yeah.
In what way?
Think about Anthony Capozzi.
Right, yeah.
Wrongfully convicted, imprisoned for over 20 years.
I know, it's incredible.
He never gave up hope.
It's amazing.
His resilience, his belief in his innocence led to his exoneration.
It's so inspiring.
It's truly inspiring.
Yeah.
It's an example of how even when things are really dark.
Even when things are really dark.
Light can win out.
Light can win, yeah. It's a reminder to never stop fighting for justice.
Stop fighting for justice.
For yourself, for ourselves.
And for others.
And for others.
No matter what.
Even when it seems
impossible.
Impossible.
There's always hope.
There's always hope. And as you go about your day today.
Yeah, I want you to think about this.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, what can we do?
To promote justice and understanding in your community? How can you use your voice to help those who are marginalized?
It's a good question.
Or silenced.
Yeah.
Even the small things can make a difference.
It's a good call to action. I hope our listeners are listening.
I hope so too.
This has been a heavy one, but I think a necessary one.
It has, but it's an important conversation.
Yeah, the story of Altemio Sanchez, it forces us
to confront some uncomfortable truths about the world.
Some uncomfortable truths about the world, about ourselves.
But it also,
I think,
shows
the importance of hope,
resilience,
and justice.
No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter how long it takes.
No matter how long it takes.
Well said. We appreciate you joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for listening.